Good afternoon. I'm Morris Gardner. I'm the manager of the program division at the Auburn Avenue Research Library, and we truly appreciate you coming out on a rainy Sunday afternoon. We can do a lot of other things. We truly appreciate having you here at the library. I think we have a wonderful event with a lot of history that speaks directly to the mission of our institution. We have some wonderful materials both up here on this floor and on the second floor about programming and the institutional mission. So please pick up that information. A couple of housekeeping notes before we go on any further. Please take the opportunity to, at the end of today's program, fill out a survey for us. This is critically important that we get this information because it's what we send to the county to justify our community programs. And we really consider this a strong, strong community program given the nature of the Girl Scouts and the nature of our institution here at the Auburn Avenue Research Library. I couldn't express how thrilled I was when Rhonda actually presented this opportunity. And to see you actually here and to see it come to fruition really speaks volumes to the Girl Scouts and what they've accomplished in the community. And it really speaks volumes to Rhonda actually uncovering that piece of history that literally took place less than a block away from where we stand right now. So again, I truly want to extend on behalf of Francine Henderson and the staff here at the Auburn Avenue Research Library my true thanks to the Girl Scouts for the opportunity for this collaboration, and hopefully it's the beginning of a strong relationship in the future as well. Also, one last note, if you aren't on our e-blast list getting updates about emails, this sheet will be in the back as well for you to leave an email address. With that being said, I'd like to turn the program over to Rhonda, who is also a member of They Are Our Friends group, and as you know, a representative of the Girl Scouts.
Good afternoon, ladies. I am so excited. This is like a dream. I can't even believe that this has happened, and it's happening. And ladies came that I didn't know were Scouts. And your grapevine is something else. I tell you, one told one, and then you all came, and we really appreciate it. What I'd like to do, what we're going to do, because we really want to do the panel discussion, so I'm going to keep all the introductions and so forth. My name is Rhonda Barrow. I am a Girl Scout leader, Ebenezer Baptist Church. I've been a Girl Scout leader for 16 years. I am also on the board of the Friends here at Auburn Avenue Library. We hope that this is not the only program that you come out to, that you come out to all the others that are here, because they are wonderful, just like this one. So what I'd like to start with is I'd like to introduce Brenda Stroger from Girl Scout Council, and she's going to make some remarks for the council.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you, Rhonda and Tamara, that right, and everybody else that participated in making this event possible. The Archives Committee, we thank you for being here and your part in it. You know, I kept thinking, what would I say? Because I was not a part of the Vaseline Ursha service unit during that time, but I was a Girl Scout during that time. And so much as it started to reveal itself, started to parallel my own life. So it became very personal for me as I started to gather information and understand what happened. Ms. Deuce was the field director. She was the second field director for the Atlanta area. She said, she told me she was the field director for colored girls back in 1940-something. Well, I, in 1975, became the first African-American field director for Girl Scouts of Pine Valley. So, you know, that was my connection, because I'm a product of the affirmative action. So we can't be here and not talk about, this is really historical. We're talking about two periods in time. We're now here celebrating when we were separate. The Girl Scout organization, I mean. The goals and ideals of the Girl Scout organization and the movement is as real today as it was in 1942. It was started in 1912, right here in Georgia, Savannah. And those ideals are still the cornerstone of who we are. And I think for another 100 years it will be, because one thing about it, it was about girls. Girls will always need the same things. I was so proud of this organization when it voted back in the 80s to remain a single-sex organization, because girls do need their own place. They're one place where they can come and be safe, where they can find their voice, where they can use their voice, because that's what makes a difference, is when you can find out who you are. You can become the best that you can be, and then you go out and make a difference. And what I want to talk about right now is these ladies. They're a product of Girl Scouts. I'm a product, and all of you here, most of you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't have some kind of connection with Girl Scouts, and it made a difference in your life. You may not can remember as much about it, but it did touch you. It made you the woman that you are today. I know it did for me. I was in Girl Scouts, and I never would have dreamed that I would have had a career in Girl Scouts at the time I was in. And my Mrs. Dew was a lady named Eloise Thompson. When I became, back in '75, when I became the first field director, she was probably the only somebody in my community who understood what that meant. And she told me how proud she was. And I didn't understand until she went on to say, you know, when I was doing this, I would have to go to board meetings and stand outside because I couldn't go in order to get the things that we needed for the girls, for you all to have day camp and do all those things. So I'm sure Ms. Dews could have some of those same stories about what they had to endure. And I don't mean that it was negative, it was just the time. That was not a black board of directors. I saw Claire Smith's name there. Had she known about this, Claire would have been here today. I feel certain about that. She was the leader of that. She was the leader of the Girl Scout area council in the 1940s. She's still very much a part of Girl Scouts right now. So I just want the young people to understand and embrace this moment. Listen intently to what might be said here. I don't know what the dialogue is going to be, but it is going to be part of history. And for you to have an opportunity to hear some of these legendary people talk about what it meant for them. And you know, Girl Scouting will be around another 100 years, and some of us might be, I probably won't be, but some of you young people, you'll be here, you can remember this day. But Girl Scouting is about building women of courage, confidence, and character. I think it is as prominent and meaningful today as it was in 1912, and I think it will be that much more another 100 years from now. So I am delighted to be here, and on behalf of the council, we're so honored that you all took the time to make this happen. And please, let's engage and have a very robust conversation this afternoon. Thank
you. Excuse me. Will all the Archives Committee members step forward or stand up or something so that everyone here can see you? Vintage uniforms, and these are actual uniforms that we have out at the archives. So we encourage you to come out, call, and see what we have out there for the troops. If there's a project you're doing, we have a world of information and items for you to use, okay? And before I forget, because I made a note to myself not to forget to thank the staff here at Auburn Avenue. I wouldn't know what to do without Morris and Laquita, and I thank you both very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Linda Bishop from the Archives Committee to step forward.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to be here today and to make all new friends. I wasn't a Girl Scout as a child, but I'm a Girl Scout now. And all, you can be Girl Scouts if you're not signed up. So it's time. Putting that aside, what I'm here to do today is to give some more honor to Miss Dews. And because I came prepared, I had to prepare my speech because I would never remember it. But I did it with a full heart and would like to read it now. In recognition of the part that you played in establishing and growing the Girl Scouts of District 5 of Atlanta, the Girl Scouts of Greater Atlanta History Archive Committee would like to present to you their sterling silver pin of charm. You have your choice. It depicts the running girl and the slogan, Girl Scouts make history, and you certainly have. Thank you so much for coming and letting us do so.
So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what has been discovered. In 1943, the first African American troops were formed here in Atlanta. The first office actually was on Auburn Avenue, where the Peacock Club used to be. That was the first location. And the second one is right here on this block. If you walk out the parking lot and walk to your right, it's a couple of doors down. So basically, in my research, what I have found, there are lots of ladies and there were stories that weren't told. So this whole thing came to light because we were trying to build the information in the archives. We did not have it. And if it wasn't for the Atlanta Daily World, we still wouldn't have it. So, you know, they were supposed to come today, but I thank them immensely because all of the history was reported very accurately. And this is how I found some of these ladies. Miss Dews I've been looking for 4 years, and she said I didn't look in the right place. But I couldn't find her. And out of real frustration, I asked someone, do you know where Rodney Street is? And they said, who are you looking for? And I said, Miss Dews. And they said, oh, she's in my choir. I said, wow, choir? Sure enough, she's in the choir. So I am very grateful to her. She let me speak with her. I went to her home with the intention of being there for 1.5 hours. And when it was on the 3rd hour, and you didn't even realize that you were there. She just, you know, welcomed me and talked to me and told me wonderful stories. So I'm going to introduce my Girl Scout, Ariana Horton, standing behind me. Ariana is a senior Girl Scout. She will be an ambassador in the fall. She is working on her Gold Award. So, she does have her bronze and her silver, so she's going to make it up. So she's going to lead the panel discussion today. Okay? So, Ariana Horton.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, well, my name is Ariana Horton, and I'm a senior in Girl Scout Troop 1368. And first, I want the panelists to introduce themselves briefly, please.
The expert has just arranged my mouthpiece, so whatever you hear, blame him. See, I don't belong to the technological age at all. I walked where I needed to go and got a ride by public transportation for many, many years. So you know, and I still have not updated my way of living. So you will understand if I'm not able to come through as you might want me to. I just need to let you know that I'm Phyllis Dews. I did my field work with the Atlanta Girl Scouts with Mrs. Jenny Harvey, my predecessor, and a very wonderful lady. I just wish someone here in her place and not me, because she would truly be the one who deserved the recognition. I don't know if you want me to answer questions or what, but I'm just letting you know that I was the field director for 10 years. And anything else you need to know, I will try to give you my best answer. So many nice things have been said. It's going to be easy for me. I see that now. Then I have some good supporters up here. And you know they were Girl Scouts. And they danced. One lady sitting to my immediate right was a young lady. Her mother would let her go anywhere unless she went with me. She doesn't like me to tell her. The next lady, she is a retired teacher, well respected all over the city of Atlanta and its environments. The next lady on the end, I knew her when she was 8 years old. She came up today. I did not know her because she's now Dr. Hope. So things like that speak for themselves. Now I'm going to just let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. For those of you who know me, don't get worried. We're going to be here until 9 o'clock, okay? It's just amazing. Phyllis was our scout leader. And my mother used to not let me go anywhere unless Phyllis was going. And I was 16 and Phyllis was a grown woman. And all of a sudden now we're the same age. And we hang out together. And Phyllis hangs better than I do. So we've come full circle. And this is, I have two of my very best friends, two of my two oldest friends are here with me today. Rosa Pope and Vivian West Brenton. And Vivian and I were friends in diaper days. My mother was the soloist at her mother and father's wedding. My father's best man. Rosa and I go back to just above diaper days. We're all here and we just wondered, why is everybody honoring us? And what is this all about? Then I was like, guess what? We are old. I don't mind being old, but Ross says, speak for yourself. I tell people, let me tell you something. When you go places and you look and say, I'm in Vaseline, Usher, and everybody, and I knew Miss Usher, and you drive down the street, name somebody you used to call Boogadoo, and you go into buildings, and the buildings had these names of people that who used to shoot marbles with your brother. You realize, what the hell? So this is, I'm just trying to think of all the stuff that we did and academics, but I am just truly, truly honored to be here between two of my very best friends and who have been my friends all my life. I mean, I'm glad to be here with you too. But I just, it's a wonderful feeling. And I hope and I pray that you will live long enough to be able to sit back and look back and see the people you grew up with, the people that you taught things to, and they're doing well. And let me pass this on to
She will get
I forgot to tell you my name. My name is, I am Celestine Bray Bottoms. I'm a native of Atlanta, a Grady baby, colored boy, okay? And I grew up here in Atlanta. I'm a retired teacher. I went to Spelman College, graduated from Washington High in 1956, before some of my parents were born. And I graduated from Spelman College in 1960, 54 years ago. I have a master's degree, and I was working on a PhD and got pregnant with my last child halfway through, so I nicknamed him Doc, okay?
I still call Celestine Bray because, you know, she was Bray when we were born, and she grew up Bray, so she's still Bray to me. but she's always been a hard act to follow, I must say. But I'm Rosalind Pope, and I have so many wonderful experiences that have come my way as a result of being a Girl Scout. And I think I'm here because in 1951, which was just 8 years after the founding of the Black Girl Scout area, I was chosen to go to the Girl Scout encampment, the national encampment in Cody, Wyoming. There was one girl chosen from each state. And because of the leadership, because of Ms. Dews and Ms. Usher and other leaders that you'll see on the pictures in the case, they were able to have me chosen to go to Wyoming. And oddly enough, I don't know whether Alaska and or Hawaii, when did they come into the Union? I don't know if there were 48 states or 50. There were 48 in 51? Okay. 48 young women, only one black, only one Negro young woman, and that was me. And it just astounded everybody that I had been sent by the state of Georgia. So that's how powerfully competent and creative and intelligent and, you know, just committed the people were who came before Celestine and I. My aunt, Laureen Weaver, is on a picture in the case. She was a Girl Scout leader. She's the one, when you go by and look, she's the one that has on the hat, the Girl Scout leader's hat. And then my sister, who is deceased, was also a Girl Scout leader. And I have with me today my niece, my sister's daughter, who received the Gold Award as a Girl Scout. So it became a family affair. And we love Girl Scouting. I went to J.K. Orr probably 7 or 8 years in a row. J.K. Orr was the camp, the summer camp that was in Lovejoy, Georgia. I don't even know where Lovejoy is anymore, but anyway, it's out. I've been away for quite a while by way of Syracuse, New York. I have a doctorate in humanities from there, and then I taught at Penn State, and then I ended up in Texas, and I stayed there much too long, much longer than I should have. I should have been back home years and years ago. I tried, but I had daughters and grandchildren pulling me to stay there. So I finally broke away, and honestly, I was so surprised this spring. I got 2 back-to-back phone calls, one from a close friend who goes back, you know, as far as we do, and the other one was from my brother, and they said, "Rosalind, your picture is on the front of the Atlanta World." And so they each brought me a paper, and I didn't know about Timber Ridge. I haven't been back that long. There was not a Timber Ridge when I last lived here. But I went there and took my brother, took my grandchild who was here for spring break, Celestine. I've been about 3 times because I'm so proud of the display and of being a representative of early Girl Scouting in the state of Georgia and in the city of Atlanta. So, thank you.
Being that you all are the first African American Girl Scout troop, did you endure any type of racial biases?
Well, I do know why she gave it to me. But I can tell you an optimistic story. The stories are all true. And believe it or not, they're not really pretty stories. But I was able to survive. I would be here today. And you know how I survived? Because of people just like you, of all races, all colors, all occupations, came to our rescue. As a matter of fact, the ground was laid for me before I got here. So I cannot lay claim to any of the high virtues that have been told to you today. Not really. I did field work as a student at Atlanta School of Social Work. and was under the supervision of Mrs. Jeanette Harvey that you probably have heard about. She belonged to Friendship Baptist Church. So did Miss Usher. Well, now that wasn't a real good combination right there because of the fact that Miss Usher's job title was supervisor of colored schools, elementary schools altogether. My job title was field director of colored Girl Scouts. So we had much in common, Miss Usher. We thought pretty much alike. She didn't have a car, I didn't have a car. We rode the bus everywhere we went. I'd wait on her bus if we waited at night, she'd wait on mine. And we got along very well. We thought pretty much alike. But my predecessor, Mrs. Harvey, was more advanced and she moved swiftly. She knew everybody. She was always on time. I didn't know how I was going to make it with her, but I finally finished my work. When I finished, she told me that she was going to get married and was leaving the job. So they offered me the job on a part-time basis. And Miss Harvey stayed long enough to show me sort of what I needed to do. And I was petrified. I was afraid to stick my head out of the office door and move right down. She knew everybody. The president of the Citizen Trust Bank, Mutual Federal, the editor of the World, everybody, all the night spots. I see they've revised Peacock down there too.
The royal Peacock.
She was well-rounded in every respect. I couldn't keep up with her to save my life, and she was kind of portly, but she could move around, and I was thin, and I still couldn't keep up with her. So I just didn't know what in the world I was going to do. In the meantime, Alabama was going through some changes before we did. And I met the director of the Girl Scouts from Birmingham, Alabama. She's the late Mrs. Mildred Johnson that none of you would know. But her young daughter was about 6 years of age at the time. I gave Mrs. Barrow that picture, she probably has it someplace. The 6-year-old child, we were at a conference. We met, only 2 blacks in upstate New York, is where I met her. And she had gone through so many experiences that just frightened me to death and made it worse. I still didn't know what I was going to do. But her daughter married the General Colin Powell. So I just appreciated that affiliation with her and the many things that I learned from her. I was a learner most of the time, and I learned from people just like you. Everybody's smarter than I was. I just happened to have had the job. I'll give you an example. We needed Girl Scout leadership. Most of the troop leaders at that time were school teachers because Miss Usher was the big boss. You didn't get anywhere unless Miss Usher agreed or recommended you. You had tremendous power. So of course the school teachers were glad to be troop leaders, they said. But I could tell, then I'd have to come along behind them and make them feel needed and wanted, which they were. But I had a job to do to get them converted to what I thought Girl Scouting, or what my supervisors thought Girl Scouting should be. And by the way, I was never a Girl Scout. Somebody thought I was, but my grandmother raised me, and she didn't allow me out of the front yard, let alone camp. It was not stylish for girls to go in the woods and live. That still hangs over to tell you the real truth. They see boys going. Robert, they'd like to see you at camp, I know, and all the other gentlemen that was in here, the one who was in here. But girls, no, that wasn't the place for you. So I grew up just with this idea in mind that girls were not supposed to go camping. But at any rate, she's bringing me the picture of my mentor in Alabama that overcame so many hardships, and I just put it up here. The young girl is the one who's married now to General Powell, because that's a bit of history too. Coming back to the people that I had to work with, school teachers, I had a difficult job converting them and making them know what they wanted. Along came a lady who worked, I think she worked in the cafeteria at one of the schools, And I went to see the leaders after school was out. I went to have a meeting with the teachers. And I sat on the steps. I had walked from the bus stop, so I was kind of tired and hot. So I sat outside on the steps waiting for school to close. This lady came out and said, "You waiting for somebody?" I said, "Yes, I'm waiting for Girl Scout leaders." She said, "Oh, you must be the lady who's doing the Girl Scouts now." I said, "I am." She said, "I want to be a leader because of my daughter. I want a troop for her." I said, "Well, we'll talk about it." She said, "But I thought you had to be a teacher." I said, "No, you really need to be a parent." I got her address, called her, got ready for the training session. She came dressed to the nines. I almost didn't know her. She sung beautifully, so she had something to add to the group that I needed very badly. She brought along 6 or 8 housewives, parents in the community, just exactly what I needed. Years passed, and this lady had a daughter who was working out of school. I was trying to teach some in the meantime as years went by. And this woman's daughter met me in the front office of Price High School. Some of you may know where it is in South Atlanta. She said, "I don't know you, but I know you, but you don't know me." She was this lady's daughter who helped me gather together these parents. She said, "So while you're here, I will let you know what the principal wants you to do." Now that was a great thing to do, because I didn't know the first thing the principal and nobody else wanted me to do. She was my right hand. That family is represented by a lady who helps me still, and she knows everything. How to fix televisions, how to buy groceries on sale. She had how to drive a car and fix the car too. She just takes a hammer and knocks the starter. Stand up over that case so somebody can see you. She's Mrs. Williams. She's a member of that family. Speaking of, somebody asked me, did I know anything about segregation? Yes, we had a separate office. The main office was in Rich's department store. Segregation was the law of the land, and we were abiding citizens. We didn't go over the rules. I didn't have much voice anyway. I wasn't that aggressive. I don't know if that was a blessing or what, but it had to be mighty hard for me to get stirred up over something. That was not true of this lady from Alabama, nor my predecessor. But you need all kinds of people, I have later found. My disposition is not one of starting anything at all. I might jump in it if somebody else starts, but I'm not a starter. But at any rate, I walked from Auburn Avenue to staff meetings every day, rain or shine, because I had no car. I really took the job because I needed the money, so I didn't have that much interest. But as things developed, I got more and more interested because the volunteers were so interested. We had no problem recruiting leaders and committee members and leadership from various aspects of the city. The city was ready, whether I was or not. And then, of course, I had to fall in line because, as I said, I needed the job. But it grew more and more interesting the longer I stayed, because everybody was so anxious to get the program started. The Boy Scouts had been before us, and the national organization wanted them to wear different uniforms. They didn't even want the boys to wear what the other National Girl Scout, Boy Scouts wore. So at least the Girl Scouts had a jump on them a little. We didn't have no trouble about the uniforms. But I walked to staff meeting every day, committee meetings along the way. Forgot something one day at a staff meeting that needed to be typed, and one of the secretaries at the office offered to type it for me. She read it over when I read it when she finished. Her husband happened to come by for lunch. He asked her, "I didn't know you took dictation from a black person." She had to leave the job. That's not good. But that was a wake-up call for me, because I did not realize that I was out of order. We then went to buy some flags from a company in this neighborhood to pick up some flags for a ceremony. I went, asked for the flags. in the name of the Girl Scouts. The man said he didn't have them. Now, my director had called ahead of time and reserved the flags. I told her I couldn't get the flags. So she said, well, I know they're there because we've already paid for it. She called, and the man answered. He said, no, ma'am, a field director, nobody that works for the Girl Scouts. I know y'all's program, that nobody's been in here. So she said, I know that the lady came to get the flags. He said, nobody's been in here but a little colored girl. I was a little colored girl, of course. But that's how I was recognized at that time. Time passed. We still had articles in the Atlanta Daily World, as Mrs. Barrow has let you know. We advertised widely in the newspaper. As an English major in college, I relied on the newspaper and word of mouth to spread the news. So I would take down articles from time to time to the world for publication. The lady on the front desk would always take the articles. Very pleasant, attractive lady. I thought she was the owner, but she seemed to have been the secretary in charge of taking and editing material. That lady took all the articles that I sent to her, edited them, corrected them. Then she said, you must be the new lady for the Girl Scouts. I said, well, she can get that from the articles, of course. I told her I was. She said, your office is up the street, because she knew Mrs. Hardy. I said, yes, it is. She said, well, I can walk up there after work and answer the phone and correct it. You don't have to come down here. She said, I'll leave the information in the envelope and the key. Just leave it there. And we will see to it that your office is open and you'll be able to get your calls and messages. That person is the mother of one of my best friends, it developed. She wasn't even born at the time, this best friend. Because you remember, I'm along with Methuselah. Nobody is as old as I am. But stand up over there. That's still here. Yeah, there she is. There. That lady. That lady's mother-in-law is the one who answered the phone for a good 2 years. Now, I won't forget volunteers like that. Now, that is as much right at this point that I think you would need to hear about my beginning years. I'm gonna let somebody else talk. I'm kidding. I'm called up here to tell things. Another time of interest was, I think I maybe will close with that one. They told me at the national office they didn't have any pictures of Black Girl Scouts. Well, Miss Barrow had the same complaint years later. They kept sending out calendars and this advertisement material with all other races except black girls. Well, they said they didn't have any, so I said, I'm gonna send you one. So I did. I don't guess she's not in here today. Jacqueline Stevens is a young lady, retired public school teacher, widely known, hard worker. I selected her because I thought she was typical. She's tall, impressive, something like Miss Barrow. Hair, nice complexion, and she was really good with the flag. When we had flag ceremonies, she would step out front, whirl around, and then I think, Rosalind, you remember Jacqueline?
I remember.
I thought so.
Yes.
Because usually the younger scouts were behind her, but she stood out wherever she was. And I'm sorry she didn't get here today, but I was hoping that she would. And she was the model to me of what a Girl Scout should be, regardless of race. And the last thing that I'm getting a request for is, well, it's not demeaning, but it's a sign of the times. Times were changing. As a matter of fact, when I was a teenager, we used to go back to Ohio to see my family because we had moved from West Virginia to Ohio because there's no work for women to do in the coal mines. So we settled in Cleveland, Ohio, my grandmother and the rest of my relatives. My mother married and came to Georgia. That was a mistake, but that's another topic for But we would go back from time to time to visit our family. The ticket agent in the train station asked my mother, she bought one-way tickets. She bought one-way tickets because we didn't have money for a round-trip ticket. They would send us back. My relatives were glad to send us back. But when we came this particular time, the ticket agent said, why are you buying one-way tickets? Well, Mother said, I plan to come back. He said, I'm so glad. We need colored folks like you. Don't go up to the north and stay. That's a sign of a change. Wind was blowing in our direction. So you see how gradually things come out. You don't have to say a word. You do have to pray about it, though. Who was it? Kennedy says, and the churches, Central, Wheat Street, Ebenezer, now this young lady presiding from there. It was Kennedy's administration, his inaugural address, when he says, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman waketh, but in vain. And that is true. We got more help from the churches than we did from many other institutions to begin with. This man as a ticket agent must have gotten the message, because I really was not looking, my mother wasn't looking for that statement to be made. Well, that's one example on the positive side. We went to camp. Now, that would take another afternoon, camp experiences. So just suffice it to say that girls were supposed to go to camp. They could do everything else. The boys, we went to the Boy Scout camp. We had plenty of Girl Scout camps. Nobody could swim. Well, the parks were segregated. How could you learn to swim without the water? So a lifeguard was always hard to come by. Nobody wanted to take Red Cross instruction. Now, my supervisor, based up there in Riches, she was on the job every day with me. I don't know how she looked after the other, I think it was 9 other field directors, but she spent most of her time with me because it was needed. She's a Southern lady, and a lady every inch of the way. She's from Macon, Georgia. She taught me the songs, the games, the philosophy behind Girl Scouting. She started from scratch. If my feet were wet from walking up there, she got dry socks and put on my feet. I mean, she did all the little things. So we do have to give credit where it's due, remember. But anyway, we went to camp. I guess it was my 2nd year. And I haven't always been old. I was supposed to be. Sometime I think so. You had to be 25 to be the director, and I was 23. So that meant she really had to stay with me because I didn't meet the national standards, but I had a master's degree. So they didn't quite know what to do with me, you know, anyways. But we got along fine. We had volunteers of all ages. They supported everything we did. Now, you had to go door to door to get 50 girls to go out in the woods. You didn't just put out that Mrs. Adair was good, but she never could get them to respond to the literature and the phone call. No, you have to go in person, knock on the door, and sit down and talk, and show them pictures so that they will understand that it's perfectly safe to live in the woods. They just knew something would eat up these precious children if they went out in the woods at J.K. Orr in Jonesboro. That's where it's located. But we did very well when I finally got, thank you, ma'am, when I got old enough to take over the job. Of course, I think I may have been old enough at that time. One day, we were doing very well in our 2nd year in camp when a car drove in, battered, rusty, muddy, filled with young white men. They had ropes, shotguns, billy sticks. They had full ammunition. Well, they told me they were looking for the interracial camp. Now, this was during Truman's administration, Harry Truman, in the early 50s. Civil rights law had just been written, but it had not been put into practice. Nothing like it, but they kept up with the current news, and I hadn't kept up. But they asked for the director when they came in. I came. Now, I didn't come, somebody sent for me. Everybody else came but me. But finally, I made my way up to see what was going on. And they told me they heard there was an interracial camp there. And they had come to see that we didn't continue. I said, you the director? I said, yes, I'm the director. Well, Larry, we don't need to see you. I think I weighed about 105, and I was 25. So I didn't quite look the part they were looking for. I'm sure I'm glad I didn't. They said, we need to see the white woman. She, of course, was bringing my petty cash and the things I need for supervision. How would she know what I'm doing if she's in Atlanta and I'm down in the country, you know? So at any rate, she did come. And he said, it's you that we need to get out of here. So you need to get in your car. What you doing down here? She told him. He said, you need to get in your car and get in front of us. They closed the hood where the guns were, of course, because I guess they thought they could deal with her. So she had to leave. She didn't have time to give me the money or anything. I was just outdone. I didn't know where in the world they were taking her, you know. But that was something that she had to do, whether or not. So then, of course, we immediately called Miss Usher. And Mrs. Mays at that time was on the camp committee, Dr. of Morehouse College. Incidentally, they are the reason I'm in Atlanta. In those days, you had to have a sponsor. Didn't matter what you knew or how much money you had. If you didn't know the right person, you'd sit at home forever. So it just happens that it didn't just happen. She was on the board, Mrs. Mays, at Payne College, where I went to school in Augusta. She came, and other people on the board. They had a meeting, they went to Jonesboro. The chief of police, the sheriff in Jonesboro said, no, they didn't deputize young men. So the men were not from Jonesboro nor the Atlanta community. But you know, that was small comfort to me when I knew they were on the loose. They said if she came back, my supervisor, they would dynamite the camp. Now I'm down here with 50 children that I had sworn nothing would happen to. And here we get this threat. We've never found out where they came from. But after they left, I just knew we had another week. And I knew the board would tell us to disband the camp and come home. No, they didn't. They said, stay there. And here I am, you know. At that time, the staff did not know the full story. Only the cook, the art teacher, we lived in a little cabin. We didn't live in tents with the children, of course. So we knew, and we confided. But they said, stay. I said, aren't you going to send one of the men down with a shotgun? They said, no. That would incite a riot. I said, oh my goodness, but who's going to send? Nobody. So you going to be here. And that was a big responsibility. I would never want to hear anybody undergoing an experience like that, because I just wasn't looking for it. Hadn't been solved today. But I sat up all night long. Every candle fly that passed, I thought was a flashlight, because I had no other means. I had to stay there. I sat on the front porch all night long until one of my staff members, who belonged to Sellers Brothers Undertaker, old company, as most of us would know, many of us would. She was there in camp as a counselor. Well, the Sellers establishment sent for her because they didn't want her to be in danger. She said, I'm not going. I'll be here until the camp closes because I'm needed. She sat with me every night on that front porch. And at 7 o'clock daybreak, she said, you go ahead and get 2 hours sleep and I'll start breakfast. Those are the kinds of volunteers we had. And they went, I could tell you story after story of how they took the initiative. All I did was learn from them for the most part. And I was on the job all day and most of the night, because that's when you work with volunteers when they have time. So I thoroughly enjoyed the lessons I learned and the things, progress that we have made. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for that answer. Ms. Bottoms, this is the vintage outfit I have on today from 1960. When you were scouting, how did you like the uniforms?
The
scouting uniform when I was, I had a uniform in elementary school, Catholic school, of which I later Lewis of a Boulevard. But I had to have a uniform when I was in high school because I did some badges. And we were trying to remember what badges we had made. And we said, what did we do? How many badges did you have? I don't know. So how many did you get? So, you know, people say, well, what was your troop number? So my troop number from 1952. I'm trying to remember my name. So this is we had your uniform is pretty sminty, but ours was we thought we looked cute. We thought we looked good, you know, the teenagers would go. But this was I really wanted to respond to your when you said the first thing, but I wanted to tell you about activities we had as Girl Scouts when we were in early high school and on. We really had a fun time. Our director, the person in charge of our group was Miss Chandler. Miss Chandler must have about 10, 12 children. She stayed pregnant every day. And we met her house. We met her house every Monday. And we all were, my group, we went to Washington High. And the thing we did every Monday, we would leave Washington High School. And we would walk up to Pascal's, the old one that was across the street. And we all would have at least saved up 60 cents. And we would get these chicken sandwiches on Mondays. And the chicken sandwich, you could have a chicken sandwich, and you had potato salad, lettuce and tomatoes. And we would just take the back of Pascal's and we'd sit there. And 50-cent chicken salad was a lot of money there. And it was really good. Then we would walk on up to Miss Chandler's house. Miss Chandler would be there holding one in the street, 10 or 12 running around. And she would have all the stuff made out for us to do. I mean, we planted a garden. We sewed. We did all these things. We did some fun stuff. One of my greatest memories was we actually went on a hayride. Y'all remember hayride? And they found this old man, and we were young. He probably was a young man, but he was older. He had a horse and wagon, a real wagon. See, I'm a city girl, but I went to the country every year in July, so I knew what a wagon was. And this man came with all this hay, real hay, on the back of this wagon. And so we set out, and we had our boyfriends with us, our dates. So everybody was sitting on the side of the wagon, all around, sitting in the hay. And we went down Hunter Street there and around just singing. Somebody even had a ukulele. You all don't know what a ukulele is. And we sang all these silly songs going down. And we went all the way over to where Carver High School is now. We had a great big bonfire. And we each took our coat hangers. And everybody had a coat hanger. And you unhook the coat hanger, and you hook the wiener, the hot dog on the coat hanger. You take the hand pan, and you stick it into the fire. You roast your wieners, and then we made s'mores. So I thought about s'mores because I was in Maryland last weekend with my family. My niece graduated from the Naval Academy, and they made s'mores. I said, oh my God, they made s'mores. But they didn't do things. They had dark chocolate. Now we used the graham crackers, and you roast the marshmallows, put those in the fire, then you put the marshmallow. But we used Mr. Cook Bar, they had nuts. Well, I was always, So, and we had one times, we had a dance, we had a sweetheart's ball, and we all were red and white. And I remember Rosa having this beautiful red dress. And I remember I made a red lace top, and I had a white straight skirt. Oh my goodness, very straight skirt. Boy, And this was, we had it at the YWCA, that was the biggest race we had then, and all of our friends came. And see, Maynard Jackson was one of our friends. And boy, the party didn't start till Maynard came in. And you know, Maynard was big, had this big chest, and he was such a gentleman. He saw to it that every girl danced. When Maynard came in, oh, the party picked up. It was wallflowers, we're going to dance for this day's over. When Maynard brought somebody, or whether he did or not, he saw to it that every girl got up and danced. And boy, could he dance. He could dance fast and then a slow dance. He'd hold you on that big stomach. You couldn't get too close like these kids are now. So they didn't have that, you know. It had to be just a tiny bit of space. They just like. But oh, we had so much fun. And then I was thinking about when we came back from that hayride, and nobody's playing the ukulele. See, you can't. The rest was on the other side. You could sneak a kiss in the straw. You know? see, you know.
Just great with some kissing in it.
Don't believe that now. But he had. I was just trying to think of some of the other things now. We were supposed to have 2 other panel members up here, but they didn't realize I had volunteered them to talk to the panel when I told them the no. But we had those are some of the things that we did. We also went, our Girl Scout troop at Our Lady of Lewis, we did community things. We used to go, you know, the cancer home, the home, Our Lady of Perpetual Care. We went there every year, and we did toiletries. And we used to, and we did, our troop did that too later. We made up boxes for some war or something. We had washcloths, toothpaste, Korean was Korean, washcloths, toothpaste, and we made up boxes and we shipped the boxes to the soldiers and all. So we did fun things, we did civic things. We went to church from time to time as a group. We just had a wonderful thing. And most of our people who were with us, just about everybody was very successful. But I'll tell you one other thing that really surprised us, we were wondering why. When they got in touch with us and said, well, you know, they have no written history of anybody past 25 years in Girl Scouts. We said, well, why? You know, we didn't know about it. So then, but once we started trying to find people and trying to think about it, well, so-and-so, she's dead. Well, so-and-so, she is dead. So Roz and I said, oh my God, we can't, all these folks are dead. So John, we're still here with us. so you know, it was all striking. You know, so many people that we know, you know, you see they've been dying all along, and some of them are right now, a lot of them dying all at the same time. But so look, I call it a little bit, I used to call it a little bit, so I started after look. I said, look. We are still here. She said, yeah. I said, we ain't planning on going nowhere. No. All these people died leaving somewhere. We don't let them go again. No. But we have had, I thank you for letting us to go back. Because in going back and remembering, we have come up with so many funny things. You remember so-and-so? Well, I don't remember that. You remember so-and-so? No, I remember that. But do you remember this? Yeah, I remember. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey down memory lane. And we thank you. I thank you so much for allowing us to take that journey. And I hope maybe through Phyllis's eyes and through my eyes now, maybe you have seen some of the things that we used to do. I remember the bad things. I don't remember. We probably did, but I remember those. But I don't think so.
Thank you so much. Okay, Ms. Pope. My favorite thing about camping is horseback riding. So when you were scouting, what was your favorite thing about camp?
It wasn't horseback. I didn't see a horse on the premises when we camped. All right. I suppose swimming and boating maybe. I liked the evening campfire ceremonies when we'd have the fire, we'd sit around, we'd sing songs and do s'mores, you know, and have a nice bonding session, and that was a regular occurrence. I wanted to say something too when you asked Ms. Dews about segregation. You know, there's hardly been anything worse than slavery and segregation for black people in this country. But the thing about those times was that there was so much support. There were the churches, there were the schools, there were the parents, there was so much protection. It was like living in a cocoon. And you know, parents and other people tried to shield young people from the realities of the world, but of course we had to, you know, confront them eventually. What I hope for this generation and succeeding generations is that we reach out to Girl Scouts or to young girls who don't have that support, you know, who are maybe sort of slipping through the cracks. We weren't allowed to slip through the cracks. There was somebody taking care of us, looking out for us all the time. And as terrible as segregation was, what it fostered was a very tight-knit black community, and her children were her children, and so nobody was allowed to fall through. So I think, you know, one of the challenges for Girl Scouting now is to try to close some gaps amongst students who don't have the support that we had back in the day, as they call it. That's one thing. 10 years later, I was at Spelman College and helped to initiate the Atlanta student movement, and we eventually changed the culture of Atlanta. It was sort of a movement, Dr. King would say, an idea whose time had come. And so that part has passed. We've conquered segregation, but we have a lot of other problems that Girl Scouts can address with young girls these days.
Thank you. Right now, we're going to open the floor to questions. So we're going to start in this section. So if anyone has questions for the panelists, will you please raise your hand? Yes.
I have a question. Hi. First of all, I just want to thank you all. First of all, I want to just thank you all for the groundwork that you laid in the community here. I'm excited for the work that you've done. You've made it possible for Girl Scouts as well as Girl Scout staff like myself to be able to work and continue the movement. Dr. Pope, you said a very important question that personally bothers me about our communities, about the closeness of the African American community, as well as we were not allowed to slip through the cracks. And so my question to the panel is, what are some things that you feel that Girl Scouting can do in the 21st century, just based off of things that you've experienced and done, to help us to keep girls from slipping through the cracks?
We have all this wisdom. You know, it's amazing. She's a little bit older than I am, but that memory, oh my goodness. And even Bray thinks she can remember better than I can. But I came up with Barbara Patton.
Yes, you did.
Excuse us.
Before I answer that question, I may be getting ahead of the host or the moderator. But before I forget it, I wanted to point out that I do have some friends, choir members, church members with me who were not Girl Scouts, but I think they're going to be indoctrinated when they leave here today. The first one, I see Barbara back there. That's your friend.
Up here. Yes.
Would you stand? Let everybody see you. Some fashion plates. Rita and Frida Williams, my church members. Her is my daughter that nobody knows about, Mrs. Adair. You stand up so they can see you. Now, and I forgot the gentleman, because we couldn't do without him. Robert Yotta is from Texas, California, and all points west. So this is is a musician in our choir, so we have great respect. He tells us when we're wrong, that's most of the time. To give you an idea of what I think we could do today is that the recent technology, I told you that I'm too old for it, but I believe that that has taken the place of real parenting and real friendship, because I did everything with the family. And nowadays, I understand they don't eat together because the young people have places to go and no time to come back. As we know, recent television programs, not bringing a sour note to this grand occasion, but we do know of the drug culture that has just about taken over. I doubt I could have survived in that kind of community. I'm speaking of a church episode that occurred last week. So now, things like that could be avoided if we spent more time with our children rather than turn them over, give them the key, give them a, what is that thing that y'all talk on, the cell phones? Everybody's got one now. So to me, we are missing the human element rather than the commercial element.
My perspective of what we could do and what really needs to be done is young women now have very little self-respect. They have very little self-worth. And I think what they have done is they have bought into the rap culture and what they hear and what they've been told. And if anybody gets offended by this, please don't. I am a retired teacher, but I've been substitute teaching and I've been doing other things in the community. And it's not at all uncommon to walk down the hall at school to hear somebody say, hey bitch, and this is a boy. And the girl turn around, huh? Come here, bitch. Okay. And whenever I see it, they call me crazy, but you know, I said, wait a minute. Did you just hear me call you? I said, did you just said, huh? And they said, oh, he just teased. And see, we have allowed that to happen. And the girls respond to it. And the girls have played right into just what this era wants. And they hear it, they think it, they internalize it, and that's who they believe they are. And then it is so sad. So I really can't tell you where we need to start, but our girls need to be told how much worth they have. You are somebody. You know, you're nobody's bitch. You know, and then when the boys get mad at each other, what do they call? Say, hey bitch. I mean, the boys call each other bitch. Then the girls say, everybody's a bitch, even me. And sometimes when I come to the classroom, they say, oh, who's that old bitch? Oh. And you know what? So this is the way they talk, y'all. I don't know if you know it or not. So you can't send all of them to the audience. So I tell them, I said, well, can you let me take my hat and my coat off before you call me a bitch? And then they say, oh, that's a crazy bitch. So then I take my hat, my coat off, and they say, well, I told myself, listen, I might be crazy, but you just wait a minute. Then before the time is over, they go, oh, when are you coming back? Can I stay here next hour? So no, and 1 hour is enough to buy. Well, when are you coming back? I said, I'm not here in answer. But seriously, our children, our girls are in trouble. And to look at the girls that we have now, those of you who have your teenage girls, I'm sorry. But our boys are in trouble because our girls are in trouble. And this is where we need to start. And I just personally think it starts with improving your self-worth. Knowing who you are and whose you are. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Let me just say a word about that. One of the things that Ms. Dews has been stressing all afternoon is the volunteers. The volunteers, people who weren't paid, you know, to be at camp. They were there because they had a commitment to the community. So I don't know the state of volunteerism right now, but I would suggest that maybe as a troop project, a troop might want to adopt a grade in the elementary school and mentor young ladies and help to show them their alternatives, you know, to the street culture. And so that would be one of my suggestions, is that somehow we manage to hook up the Girl Scouts, who we know are on the right track, with those who we know are not. Ask Ray to introduce the other girls, the three other people from our troop, because they may want to stand up and pitch in with this, the ones who refuse to come sit up here.
And they all are lovely. Their memories are better than ours and everything. First, Dottie Strickland. Dottie, what's your last name now?
I'm Rosie, but Strickland there.
Okay, Dottie Strickland, Rosie, and Alice Ram, Blake, yes, and Vivian Wells Brinson, and so all of us are in the same troop. Don't put out the You got to make a statement now.
Well, I was thinking about one thing that we were talking about, segregation. You know about the Fox Theater.
Oh, yes.
We never had an opportunity to go there until the Scout Jamboree every year. Before that time, we would have to go up the back steps.
Flights of stairs.
But that was one time we looked forward to going to the Fox Theater, and it's just something I remember from that time. I wanted to share that with you.
Oh, he sees the numbers.
Okay. We'd love to have that.
Carol. Patricia Maddox.
Oh, yeah.
My sister Jacqueline Swan. Ricky. Jacqueline Smith. Eva Stroud. Ruth Coleman Tuttle. Lorraine Weaver.
Yes,
Oh.
my cousin.
Elaine Smith Palmer. And Alice Waters.
Well, thank you so much. I think there's one more. Is Beverly Willis? She's on there. Okay, I missed that. Okay, thank you.
So this is, we have one more, Barbara Patton Dollar. And Barbara Patton Dollar is ours. She lives in Seattle with her husband. Oh, this is, okay, that's right. I heard you say, sorry about that. Vivian?
Well, I wanted to add, you asked Rosalind what she liked best about camping. You didn't ask her what she liked least. Cleaning for the tree.
I think I was sick on those days.
Okay, now we're going to move on to this section.
Oh, yeah.
So that
Oh,
anyone
Jane
have a
Smith
question?
had a question. We missed one person over there.
You know, I wanted to ask about the Girl Scout movement now. Roz, is so understated about you all's involvement in the civil rights movement, your leadership in that. The Girl Scouts will say they're on a movement now. And so it probably be a full discussion for another place at another time, but what is a movement? And how could the Girl Scouts really be in a movement about girls in comparison to the other movements that you all were so involved in? So I know that's a whole nother conversation, but I want to note that the Girl Scouts are calling it a movement now.
Well, that sounds good. That's very encouraging.
That's very good.
Yes.
But that's so
It's
different.
a unity of spirit.
Right.
Yes, a common goal.
Right.
And good direction. You know, those kinds of things. I didn't know about the movement, but that's good to hear.
That's what they said.
Okay.
That's
Girl
what
Scout
they-
movement.
But you know, that's one way that when we're talking about the improving female images and self-worth, if we had the money, we could do a blast campaign over television. It was just like you had ads come on and say, you're worthy, you're this, you're that, and rather than all these products. So if that could be done for that way, that's a really good idea.
My final comment, that the Girl Scouts should know that that generation, I'm right with you, right next door, but that's the movement generation in this country, that they are black and white. And I think that there could be a lot learned from you all about movements. Thank you.
So anyone in this section have a question?
I don't have a question, but I wanted to make a comment, and Rhonda and I, we've talked about this quite a bit. It's really interesting to hear some of the things that you've been through. With our scouts, we still find that there's still prejudice within the system, especially as it pertains to our girls getting our gold award. There seems to be, and I've been quite vocal about it, there seems to be, I'm trying to think of the politically correct way to put it. Our girls go for the gold, but the opportunities are not there for them as they are for a non-African American person. So we still find that issue, and it's very hard to motivate and push your girls to get something, to let them know that even though they may not get that scholarship. For example, I think this last one, my daughter actually got it. There were 99 girls, and the last young lady got the lowest scholarship, which happened to be African American. But you note that every year, and so it's kind of hard as a leader to motivate our young ladies to go for it just because of the work that will bring you later. And so I find that really interesting that even though we progress, we still digress.
Yes, we do. We regress and retrogress, and we are really in so many ways going downhill. And maybe in your situation, which depends primarily on leaders who are in control of the award, like I'm very proud of my nieces having received a gold award. And it would be wonderful if more of our girls could receive it. And maybe there needs to be some sort of sensitivity training among the people who are involved.
We push our girls. We push them to do it, regardless of the outcome. It's just that it's hard to tell the young ladies, well, you know, especially if you start with them in second grade, you know, if you do this, if you do this, if you do this, this will be the end result. But still, it's not being that end result.
Not the girls. I'm speaking of the people in charge of designating the people to receive the awards. Maybe there's a subconscious kind of racism going on. I thought that's how you started out, is that somehow our girls are not chosen, even though they go through all of the steps to be chosen. And so maybe that needs to be addressed, you know, at a higher level, to say to people, let's talk about this. Our girls are discouraged because they do everything they can, and yet when they get to the top, they're not the ones selected, and it needs to be addressed at that level, I would think.
I'd like to make a comment about that. I think your direction is correct. I would strongly encourage that we are a volunteer organization, and our voice needs to be heard. Just like we talk about girls' voices, the African American voice needs to be heard. Which means we need to step up and volunteer. There are volunteer committees that make these decisions, but also there is a cap. It's not like they only have so much money and can only give out so much. But I think the missing thing is that we don't necessarily have a voice at the table. And that means somebody has to step up and volunteer.
Exactly.
And I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Looks like a volunteer to me.
Yeah, we'll have to stop our, the voices have been heard. It's just something that you kind of, right.
Committee level where the decisions are being made,
Yeah.
not just what it is.
Yeah.
But are we represented on the committee?
Thank you for that question. In this section, did anyone have a question?
I want to make a quick comment. I think the feedback is so great, and it is a Girl Scout movement, as you said, Jane, and it's very cool because right now, Girl Scouts nationwide, in honor of the 100th anniversary, has come out with a great new campaign. It's called To Get Her There. There being anywhere, anywhere she wants to go, and anywhere the people who support her can take her. It's a call to action to participate, speak up, and invest in the lives of girls everywhere in order to really become a movement. And it's bold and it's audacious. It's the largest of its kind ever impacting girls. So we are trying to raise over the next 5 years as a nationwide Girl Scout organization $1 billion. And this is the largest undertaking, the largest fundraising project ever on behalf of girls that will just be devoted to girl programs. And we also have a real increase in the number of our membership, because even in Atlanta, we have 42,000 girls, 18,000 adult members. That's 8% of the girls we could be reaching. It's 8%. I mean, we're not getting there. We're not getting out enough. And so it's really impactful. They do have some great campaigns, actually, that I can't wait for you guys to see. We will be pushing them out in the Atlanta area. A couple of them have some girls, and one of them, she's kind of staring at the camera, and she says, I just really want to be a C student. And the next one says, you know, I don't know, I don't want to do much. You know, and finally you get to the point where the girls are speaking up and are bold enough to say, I want to be, you know, I want to be the CEO. I want to be the president. You know, and they're finally able to change their voice and to not feel like they need to be, you know, wallflowers, and that they, you know, that smart girls are cool, right? So that's kind of the big issue, and that, you know, so I encourage you all to be on the lookout for that coming out from the Girl Scout movement, and really being a voice on behalf of girls everywhere.
Yeah, that's really good.
Thank you. And in the last section, is there any questions?
I'd like to know, how does a smaller organization partner with the Girl Scouts to possibly bring some of those other things that you say you may not have, the self-esteem piece, maybe some goal setting and leadership, other types of leadership?
We actually have those kind of programs that are for developing your self-confidence and knowing how to set goals. Our cookie sale, for instance, it teaches from your end where you're the receiver of cookies, that's what you see. But it is a financial literacy program, and it teaches, have a lot of skills that's built into it, and goal setting is one of them. So we have those programs. I think our reach needs to be wider. We need to reach more of our girls. And when I say our girls, I am talking about the African American girls. We have an outreach program. We serve about 5,600 girls right in the city of Atlanta, where we reach out with paid staff to go out. We do not have enough churches supporting us and community volunteers. That's what we need. The program is par excellence. It really is. And it's very contemporary. No matter what the interest is, it can be adapted. There are all kinds of ways. There used to be one way to be in Girl Scouts, which was the truth. Now you can be in a series based on an interest that maybe last 6 months. You can go to camp. You can do a plethora of things based on what your needs are. If you're a softball person and you don't have time during that period, you could be in Girl Scouts the other part of the time. So I think Girl Scouting is very different, but in our community, we don't really know what Girl Scouting is now and how we can be a part of it. But I strongly encourage you. I'm your director of membership. I have several staff members here. And one of our big pushes has been to go to our faith-based churches and really ask. We can be a ministry. It is spiritually based. We have My Promise, My Faith, where you talk about, we don't get into religious teaching, but we do have, through the Pray Foundation, information that if you have a group that want to work with the girls in your churches on their faith, there's a program that's directly related. But Girl Scouting has a breadth of programs. And I think if we could just get the volunteers in the community to open up to us more and have more forums like this, start one at your church, invite, but band together with churches and say, bring your Girl Scouts in, let's talk.